could be, may be supporting this motion.
Can I have the Hansard, please?
And Mr. Speaker, this House should be guided by the Constitution. Article 117(1) is very clear that a House of Parliament must exercise freedom of speech. We are not going to be gagged in this House. Every time we stand up to debate, we are being told to substantiate on everything. Mr. Speaker, I've been elected by the people of Vihiga
Senator Osotsi,
to come and debate freely in this House.
Order,
not to
order,
be
senators. Order, honorable senators. Order, honorable senators. Senator Osotsi, you do not appear in the list of nominated senators. You need not remind people of an obvious thing. Of course you're elected. A point of order has been raised. I need to rule on it. And for me to rule on it, I need to see the Hansard. Because what Senator Cheriot said, you're saying those are not your words. So to get exactly what he said, I have to refer to the Hansard. And that is exactly what I'm waiting to see. Okay, I will allow you to proceed. In the next 1 hour, the Hansard will be made available, and I will go back to we shall revisit the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I don't run away from issues. I've been known for that. I'll confront the issues. Mr. Speaker, I will say that this motion is unconstitutional because the committee conveniently did not look at the provisions of Article 241(2) that list down the forces in this country. And the police, the National Police Service is not listed as one of the services, Mr. Speaker. So under what provision of the Constitution is this motion being brought before us to pass, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, secondly, I have looked at the list of countries that are sending troops to Haiti. In Africa, the list reads like failed states: Burundi, Chad, and Senegal. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a serious country in this continent. There is a serious country.
Senator
Mr. Speaker,
Cheriot,
can you protect me from
allow the senator to make his contribution in silence, please.
Can you protect me from my friend Cheriot? Mr. Speaker, we cannot put ourselves among the failed states, that we are now going to protect another failed state. Mr. Speaker, even one question that you need to ask: what is this moral obligation?
Senator Sigay. Senator Sigay.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. And from the very onset, I want to support the motion by the Honorable Senator Cheptumo. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a family of nations, and the effort that particular motion is seeking to do is to show the international community and the global world that we play the league of other nations. And by sending this particular team, Mr. Speaker, by supporting this motion, we are supporting the commitment that this nation has made, not only to the African nation, but to the world. And Mr. Speaker, Kenya sits as a member of the United Nations. We are all aware that we are holding and we are hosting the United Nations within the capital city of Kenya, that is Nairobi. And in this case, Mr. Speaker, I am aware that previously Kenya has sat in the UN Security Council Indeed, Mr. Speaker, in 1973 and 1974, in 1997 and 1998, and in the year 2021, where we assumed the presidency of the United Nations Security Council for a rotational period. Mr. Speaker, this is the period when Kenya did make this statement and the commitment to support the sending of its support to Haiti. And we have been given the statistics by the Honorable Cheptumo on the benefits that this country is going to have by supporting this mission. One of which, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that Kenya is going to be the lead nation in that mission. Being the lead nation is showing the way for the African community, for the African countries in that particular mission. And the number of officers who are going to be sent, Mr. Speaker, are our brothers and sisters who are not only going to also experience a new world out there, but will offer the training and support, both in terms of capacity building and ultimately supporting the city or the people of Haiti in building their country to a better nation. Mr. Speaker, it is not lost that this is a mission and this is a commitment that this country has made, and it is a show of solidarity with the rest of the members of the United Nations, and this is one of the ways with which we will expand the global name and the global status of this country in the rest of the family of nations. Mr. Speaker, I truly support this and encourage this House to ensure that in the shortest time possible, this mission.
Senator Mbwa.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to also make a contribution to this motion, and request my colleagues led by the majority leader to just allow members to debate. The majority will carry the day and will be bound by the decision of that House. Mr. Speaker, those of us who have some little understanding of the operations of the United Nations peacekeeping missions, we know that, Mr. Speaker, Chapter 7 of the UN Charter on Peacekeeping is the harshest of all the chapters. In fact, under Chapter 7, the peacekeeping troops that are deployed are allowed to use military force to enforce peace and order. In real sense, they are actually combatants, as opposed to a deployment under Chapter 4, Chapter 6, we should allow free and smooth passage of human beings, of food, of services for victims of the conflict. The Speaker, what we are doing by passing this motion is deploying our officers from the National Police Service to go and do battle in Haiti. The assessment mission that we sent to Haiti, Mr. Speaker, before this deployment was met with serious, open aggression by civil society groups and other social movements in Haiti, who said, do not send your troops here. We want to deal with our problems in-house. Mr. Speaker, it is okay and it is true to say that the Kenyan government will not spend any money in this deployment. The Kenyan government is spending a lot more than money in this deployment. The Kenyan government is sending our officers to a battlefield where other states in the Kenyan League, Mr. Speaker, from the UN, have stayed off. In fact, it will be remembered, Mr. Speaker, that from August, early August to date, the United States of America and the UN headquarters in New York have really been pushing member states of the UN to contribute troops to go to Haiti. It is us, Mr. Speaker, and that's why I was asking the question that I was asking to the mover of the motion. It is us as a nation that wrote and requested to be allowed to be the leaders of the troops that will be contributed to Haiti. Mr. Speaker, for the love that I have for our police service, our young men in the police service, Mr. Speaker, I do oppose this motion.
Speaker, did you hear the Honorable Senator Wambua saying that Kenya requested? I'm standing under Order 105 to challenge him to table that letter of request, because to my knowledge, Mr. Speaker, it was the other way round. Kenya, because of its exemplary record in peacekeeping missions, has been requested to lead this particular mission. So is he in order? And if he doesn't have, then he should withdraw that information.
Senator Wambua, can you proceed to substantiate?
Mr. Speaker, in a different situation, you would have ruled that the senator has already concluded his debate. So, but because you have asked me to substantiate, Mr. Speaker, I will say those are just semantics. Whether we requested or we did not request, the fact is we are sending our men and women into the battlefield. As a Speaker, for the comfort of Senator Mogatana, my neighbor, I withdraw the statement on the request. That is not to say we did not request.
Senator Wambua, you basically haven't withdrawn that statement, if I got you correctly. So just proceed with the draw, we make progress.
Mr. Speaker, I withdraw and duly apologize to Senator Mugata.
Senator Chiranke.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I rise to support this motion. As it has been stated before, this is an honor to this great country and in confidence of our national security apparatus. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct a misnomer that was being advanced, that national security organs and National Security Council, the National Police Service is part of it, Mr. Speaker. The Director General of the Inspector General of the Police, among others, Mr. Speaker, participate, and it has been recognized under Article 239. Mr. Speaker, therefore, this matter that was brought before the House is properly and it is constitutional, Mr. Speaker. Secondly, Kenya has been known to be one of the best peacekeeping. This is not the first time that Kenya we are doing peacekeeping missions. And we have had an explanatory report, Mr. Speaker. We have done in Amazon, we were in Bosnia, among other countries, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this has brought a very respect across, Mr. Speaker, as a nation, under United Nations, as a respected League of Nations, Mr. Speaker, Senator, we must be part of bringing peace across the country. Yes.
Senator Wambua would like to inform you. Would you allow him?
No, for today, I decline respectfully. Mr. Speaker, so that I make use of my time, Mr. Speaker, secondly, I want to appeal to the Kenyan government and Haiti. Mr. Speaker, the reason we are going to Haiti is because they are also blacks like us. As the song by Busy Signal, Free Up, he says Malcolm X is black. Haitians are black. Kenyans are black. And that is what the Free Up song, Haiti is black, by the Busy Signal, Mr. Speaker, on the song called Free Up. So we are going to free up, Mr. Speaker, more fire. We are going to free up Haiti, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the other aspect, on the issue of compensation, I want to appeal that whenever, in case a fatality will happen, the government and the United Nations must take up provision of dependents and payment of schools fees if one or two soldiers, unfortunately, we lose some of them, Mr. Speaker. Number two, on medical care, I want to propose, should our officers get injured in line of duty, they must be taken to medical care in U.S. veteran hospitals so that they can ensure they get quality medical care, finally, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is an important motion. The national security. Mr. Speaker, this is an honor. We should be proud as a country that we have been called to lead from front, Mr. Speaker. I don't know why our colleagues from the other side want to lead from behind, Mr. Speaker. The Bible says we are going to be the heads in Deuteronomy chapter 28, but not the tails. I don't know which pride do we take as a country to lead from behind. We should lead from front, Mr. Speaker, and the League of Nations has called the country to lead, Mr. Speaker. I want to appeal that our soldiers, as they go, and this is not the ordinary AP officers who fight Changa in the villages. They are paramilitary, Mr. Speaker. I support the motion.
Senator Muma Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose this motion for this reason. Mr. Speaker, this deployment is unconstitutional. That's exactly what I'm going to demonstrate. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya at Article 241 talks about the defense forces, and the defense forces do not include our police service. Mr. Speaker, under Article 240, it is contemplated that Kenya can deploy forces for external purposes. It does not mention that we can deploy the services for external purposes. Mr. Speaker, I have also read the Police Service Act, and I have looked at the functions of the police in the Police Service Act. Mr. Speaker, the functions of the police under the Police Service Act do not include carrying out work that is outside of Kenya. It provides for that internal security. It also provides for emergency being deployed for emergency purposes. It also provides that these forces, the services may be deployed in the defense of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I have read the UN Charter, Article 43 and Article 45. I think the motion was wrong, or the motion seconder was wrong to make reference to Article 45 of the UN Charter. The Article 45 of the UN Charter requires that state parties shall make available air forces contingencies to assist. It does not contemplate that police services will be provided. Now, assuming that this will be ignored and the services will be provided, Mr. Speaker, the detail in terms of, we have not been told which units are being deployed. Is it GSU? Is it which one? We've not been told whether they are being trained together. We have not been, I think my 3 minutes are not over, but I guess I'll just proceed and finish. I put on the clock and I can see it's gone. Mr. Speaker, this motion has not brought clarity on exactly who's being deployed, and if you see whoever is supposed to lead and to deputize are of the same.
Senator Nderitu John Kinywa.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Bwana Spika, Kenya ni moja wa mwanachama wa Umoja wa Mataifa, Bwana Spika. Na Bwana Spika, tunapaswa kusema wazi na kusema vizuri ikiwa Kenya ni mwanachama Umoja wa Mataifa, Bwana Spika. Na vile vile Bwana Spika, kamati ya usalama ya Umoja wa Mataifa wakaketi na kusema ya kwamba wale ambao wana ujuzi, uzoefu na uwezo wa kuongoza katika nchi ya Haiti ni Kenya, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, badala ya vile ninavyosikia ndugu zangu wa upande wa upinzani wakisema ya kwamba tunapaswa kupinga, wanapaswa kupongeza askari polisi wa nchi ya Kenya, Bwana Spika, kwa kuteuliwa na kuambiwa wao ndio watakaoongoza kwa sababu wana uzoefu na ujuzi, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, kabla hata sisi kupitisha mswada huu Bwana Spika, nimekuwa nikipigiwa Bwana Spika na askari polisi ambao wana uzoefu Bwana Spika, wanasema wanangoja Bwana Spika tupitishe mswada huu Bwana Spika, ndiposa wizara ya masuala ya mambo ya ndani Bwana Spika waweze kuwatuma waende kufanya ile kazi Bwana Spika ambao wanaijua zaidi. Bwana Spika, hawa askari wanaofanya hizi simu wanazopiga Bwana Spika ni kwa sababu wameona Bwana Spika ndugu zetu askari ambao wameenda katika
Senator Eddie, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I rise under the point of order number 105, understatement of fact, and combined with the point of order number 101, which is imputing improper motive, and also discourages us from discussing people in this house. Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the senator for Laikipia to stand in this house and tell us that there are some calls from some policemen who have called him so desperate to go and work in Haiti, Mr. Speaker, without giving us the name of these policemen, without giving us the real cause of these policemen? Because, Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious task where people are going to leave their children to go to this mission. People are going to leave their wives to go to this mission. People are going to leave their families to go to this mission, Mr. Speaker, and they could as well also die, because people are dying in that area because of attacks, Mr. Speaker. If you're going to claim that there's a police officers who have called you personally and are telling us in this hour that that's a matter that is enough to substantiate to justify why you're going to that place, give us the name of those police officers, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddie, I actually rule you out of order. The fact that there are reference to several phone calls or otherwise does not mean. Proceed, Senator King.
Asanti Bwana Spika kwa kunikinga kutokana na masuala ambayo Bwana Spika umeona si nyeti Bwana Spika. Askari polisi wanaweza wakapigia mtu yote simu Bwana Spika. Si mambo ya Haiti peke yake Bwana Spika. Huwa wananipigia simu hata wakati Bwana Spika, hata wakati watu wanashambuliwa na wezi wa mifugo. Wananipigia simu Bwana Spika kama seneta wao Bwana Spika. Na hili si jambo ngeni Bwana Spika, kwa sababu kuna askari wengi ambao Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya kwamba jumba hili kazi yake kuu Bwana Spika ni kuidhinisha, alafu nayo wizara Bwana Spika iweze Bwana Spika, nadhani muda wangu ungesimamishwa kwa sababu Senator Eddie Bwana Spika.
Proceed, you are wasting much.
Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya Bwana Spika, nasema ya kwamba ni vizuri Bwana Spika, naunga mkono mswada huu Bwana Spika, niposa ndugu zetu walioko Haiti Bwana Spika waweze kusaidiwa na ndugu askari polisi ambao wako na ujuzi na uzoefu Bwana Spika, kwa sababu Haiti ni ndugu zetu Bwana Spika, na ambao Bwana Spika wanahitaji huduma ya askari polisi wa Kenya ambao wamebombea katika kazi yao Bwana Spika. Naunga mkono mswada huu na naomba ndugu zangu, Eddie najua ataunga mkono, lakini najua yeye analeta kejeli kwanza. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kupinga mswada wa kupelekwa kwa askari polisi kwa nchi ya Haiti. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia katiba katika kifungu cha 240 na 41, majeshi ni tofauti na askari polisi. Majeshi ya Kenya ni pamoja na jeshi la nchi kavu, jeshi la angani na jeshi la wanamaji katika kifungu cha 241. Mheshimiwa Spika, polisi wametajwa katika kifungu cha 243. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, kikatiba ni makosa kupeleka vikosi vya polisi katika nchi ya Haiti, ambao nchi inajulikana kwa utovu wa usalama katika ulimwengu, na ni nchi ambayo tayari ni katika zile nchi ambazo zimefail kimaendeleo. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo la pili ambalo napinga ni kwamba katika sheria ya National Police Service katika kifungu cha 108, Police Service ni polisi ambao wanatulinda katika nchi ya Kenya. Polisi hawana majukumu ya kufanya ulinzi katika nchi za kigeni, Mheshimiwa Spika, isipokuwa mahali ambapo kuna ile ambayo yaitwa kwa Kiingereza reciprocation. Tunawapa polisi wetu na wao wanatupa wao kuja kujifunza kazi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo la tatu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba katika nchi yetu hivi sasa hatuna polisi wa kutosha. Yasikitisha Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba watu wanaendelea kuuawa katika sehemu mbalimbali nchini Kenya. Tukiangalia kule Baringo watu wanauliwa kiolela, tukiangalia sehemu za Turkana watu wanakufa kiolela, na sehemu nyingi za nchi yetu Mheshimiwa Spika zina utovu wa usalama. Kwa hivyo ni makosa kwamba sisi wenyewe hatujakuwa na polisi wa kutosha, na wale kidogo tunawapeleka nchi nyingine kwenda kuhudumu kwa muda ambao kwa hakika hautambuliki katika hii ripoti ambayo imeletwa hapa katika bunge, Mheshimiwa Spika. Jambo la tatu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba sisi wenyewe kama Wakenya hatuna askari wa kutosha. Tukiangalia kama kule Mombasa utapata benki nyingine zinalindwa na askari wa jela. Askari jela wanasaidia ulinzi katika mji wa Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo ni kwamba polisi tulioko nao hawatoshi, na haiwezekani kwamba wale polisi kidogo watume kwenda nchi nyingine. Mheshimiwa Spika, mwisho, wengi wamesema hapa kwamba Kenya inatakana kuongoza kwa sababu swala lililoko hapa ni swala la kibinadamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama ni ubinadamu ungeanza na nchi ya Palestina, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambapo nchi zote za ulimwengu zimelinda.
Senator Esther Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and I want to support the motion that has actually been brought by the joint report. First, Mr. Speaker, Kenya is a very strategic and stabilizing factor as a state generally in our global politics. Kenya actually hosts one of the UN headquarters among the very few in Africa. Mr. Speaker, and the country Haiti we are talking about is even smaller than Senator Wambua's county. And for your information, while I acknowledge how intense the issues in Haiti are, because when I read in history, one of the most experienced military men, one Napoleon Bonaparte, actually conquered most areas in Europe, but when he went to Haiti, many of his soldiers were left dead and later had to sign a peace agreement. Mr. Speaker, it's a very great honor for our country to lead such peace initiatives in that country which most of its citizens share our African descent. And in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, I think Kenya is doing very well. For the few months our president has been in office, has put our country on international arena positively. When this news actually came, most of the world media was mentioning us across the continent. Mr. Speaker, it's one of our international obligations as a country to actually commit to peacekeeping initiatives. It's not happening for the first time. In the years 2000, our country has sent their troops to Sierra Leone, Liberia, under the stewardship of General Daniel Opande. So I do not understand why this should be causing alarm to our colleagues on the other side of the divide, because it's not a new thing in this country. Mr. Speaker, finally, as we actually observe whatever is happening in Haiti are humanitarian issues. We do not want to watch genocide happen. We do not want to lose young children. We do not want to lose women who are the most affected when war happens. I hope for the first time we are going to defeat the gangs, because this is a country that has just killed one president, not two presidents, 5 sitting presidents. So I'll be looking forward to seeing what the joint...
Senator Mogeni, Eric Okongo.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the record, I want to go on record as opposing this motion. You know, Mr. Speaker, I want to speak to the police officers as my sisters and my brothers. And as a country, before we send citizens who have a registration bearing an identification as Kenyans, we need to think about their safety, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even if you wanted to try to travel to Haiti today as an ordinary citizen, Mr. Speaker, you will be warned that Haiti is a very unsafe country to go to. Why? As we speak even now, Mr. Speaker, people are being murdered, people are being kidnapped, there is war everywhere. There is no place that is safe in Haiti. And some of these things you learn. The Americans were warned not to go to Somalia in 1992, 93. They persisted, sent their soldiers to Somalia. They were butchered, killed like chicken. So when you are sending our brothers, sisters, our children to Haiti, think about their lives. Are they going to come back alive, or we are going to receive corpses at the airport, Mr. Speaker? It's a good thing, and nobody opposes, Mr. Speaker, sending people to UN missions. But don't send our children, our brothers, to countries where they will be murdered, Mr. Speaker. Haiti is unsafe. Even a president in Haiti is not safe. How can a police officer be safe? These are not even soldiers, Mr. Speaker. We are being extremely sensitive. Especially we, as the representatives of people, we are being very insensitive, Mr. Speaker. So we have to go on record, Mr. Speaker, and time will vindicate us. I'm strongly opposed to this idea of sending our children to Haiti. As we speak today, the only presence we have of America in Somalia is through the bombings they are doing there against the Al-Shabaabs and the likes. We should be leaders who think, reflect, and assist our president in making the right decisions, Mr. Speaker. We are not here just to rubber stamp what the executive wants. We are here to act in the best interest of the people we represent. The people who are going to Haiti could be my brother, it could be Galwale's brother, Mr. Speaker. Don't we think what exposure we are giving these Kenyans, Mr. Speaker? You know, Mr. Speaker, even healthcare does not work. Healthcare does not function in Haiti. These guys speak a language, I don't know, called Creole. It's not French, it's nothing. You can't even communicate, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm sad. I'm speaking as a very sad Kenyan this afternoon, that we are just making statements, but we don't care about the lives of these guys you are sending to Haiti. You can look at what has...
Your time is up, Senator Omogeni. Senator Karungo Thangwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I rise to support this motion, where we need to send our police officers to Haiti for peacekeeping. Mr. Speaker, for those who are saying it's against the law, I would want to refer them to the National Police Service Act, Section 10, which talks about the functions and powers of the Inspector General, Mr. Speaker. One of those powers is to promote cooperation with international police agencies. Mr. Speaker, when this happens, this kind of promotion, when other police agencies request for support, who are we to say no, Mr. Speaker? Because I do not really understand those who are saying that we should not send
We have National Police Service. Article 1, for which the council gets its confidence to send our National Police Service officers outside this country, says that the council may, with approval of parliament, deploy national police forces. We don't have a force. If the majority side is keen on pleasing the international community, Mr. Speaker, change the law. Look at the structure of the National Police Service Act. It did not contemplate even a single moment us sending our men and women in uniform in the service to anywhere abroad. And even if you're to do that, because you want to insist that you have the power to do that, to send our children, to send people's husbands, to send anybody who is serving in this service, Mr. Speaker, then at least do it the correct way. You cannot have a proposal that says a superintendent is going to be the head of mission, a deputy head of mission is going to be a superintendent, the other person who is following them is going to be a superintendent. You can't have one rank being in all other responsibilities, Mr. Speaker. There is no contingency plan. Should 100 of these officers die in Haiti, Mr. Speaker, we are not given any kind of contingency plan to be able to replace them, both abroad and locally here, Mr. Speaker. And to my disappointment of this Senate, under Article 96, we are elected to protect the interests of county, Mr. Speaker. I sit in Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Speaker, and some of the budgets that have gotten for increment by the assemblies, the county assemblies and the county government, from Wajir, from Mandera, from Isiolo, have been budgets to increase security in those regions, Mr. Speaker. How does a Senate take its officers out of the county when in our budget committee we have got claims to be able to add officers to allow MCS do their work, to allow governors do their work, to allow ministers in our communities, in our local parliaments do their work? Where is our priority as a nation? If we cannot stand to protect ourselves internally, Mr. Speaker. As we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, in Kainuk, kids cannot go to school, Mr. Speaker. We went to
Senator Mundigi, Alex Munyi. Your time is up. Senator Mundigi, proceed.
Bwana Spika, naunga mkono kwa jeshi waende wakapigane ama wakatafute usalama kule Haiti, kwa sababu najua hao watu ni watu wenye unjuzi wa kutosha, ni watu hata Mungu atawapatia baraka. Na pia nataka nikumbushe Senator Okechi, tunakumbuka tulipigana vita na msungu na hatuka tunajua chochote na tukashinda. Na sasa nataka nikuambie hawa vijana wetu wakienda itashinda, kwa sababu nataka nikuambie sio ile vita unafikiria. Ni vita ya ndugu na dada yake na ndugu yake, ni kwenda na wale wamesoma kabisa kuwakalisha watu hii grupu na hii grupu waweze kuja pamoja, wasikizane, waambiwe dunia hii inaisha kwa sababu tunataka tuondoke. Ya pili, nataka nikuambie katika Biblia kuna wale ule mama na ule mwingine walikuwa na mtoto wakaanza kupigania, watu walikuwa nakuja wanapita, lakini ukakuja mtu mmoja akatumia unjuzi akasema wewe unataka mtoto afanywe nini? Mmoja akasema nataka huyu mtoto akatwe na katikati na huyu mwingine aende. Lakini ile mama mmoja akasema hapana, nimekubali mtoto apatiwe. Na vita ikaisha. Kwa hiyo naomba hao vijana wetu waweze kwenda Haiti. Ile kitu tunafaa tunjivunie ni kuwa hatukusema waende, ni kwa sababu sisi Kenya iko imara na inajua mambo ya vita. Tumeulizwa tuweze kusaidia ndio umoja uonekane. Ya mwisho ni tusapoti waweze kwenda na warundi vizuri. Ile kitu tunafaa tufanye kama masunja ambayo wanajua Mungu ni kuomba Mungu ambaye ndio waweze kwenda waangalie hiyo maneno na walete wakuje na taarifa nzuri wakiwa ile inji imesimama vizuri. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, naunga mkono.
Senator Mariam Omar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. I stand to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time we are sending our troops for the peacemaking, to peacekeeping. Mr. Speaker, these troops, their specific task is to maintain peace order in the area of Haiti, security and critical structures, to support hospitals, schools, going school students, and so forth. It also help in provisions and HIDA and safe access to humanitarian aid. Mr. Speaker, as much as we want to send troops to maintain peace in the other places, Mr. Speaker, in our area also in Mandera, northern Kenya, we have insecurity like Al-Shabaab. I, as one of the leaders from northern Kenya, Mandera, I request, appeal to our government for declaring Al-Shabaab as a terrorist, so that we need support to take care of our people which are suffering, because we cannot access road because of Al-Shabaab. We wanted our government come forward to declare Al-Shabaab to be a terrorist. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni Halwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the vote is bigger than legalese. Humanity, Mr. Speaker, is bigger than the UN Charter. It is bigger than international protocols. And yes, Mr. Speaker, humanity is bigger than the constitutions of the nations of the world. Humanity is human beings moving collectively. Human beings rising in a humane manner for benevolence, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we reflect on this, it's not different from where we normally find ourselves as professional doctors. You go into an area where there is disease that is killing people, but you go there to stop the deaths. It is because of humanity that people brought us vaccines and drugs when COVID-19 was wiping out Kenyans. It is because of humanity that we shall be taking our young people, who I would advise they get the elite ones from the General Service Unit, GSU, to be the preferred officers who will go to Haiti. And Mr. Speaker, our understanding is that our officers are not going to fight. They're going to sit there to create a buffer so that militia A that fights militia B can find a middle ground of people who allow them to see sense. Mr. Speaker, whether we like it or not, we must accept that when it was difficult for us in 2008, 2007, we needed the international community for peace and order to restore in Kenya. So if we benefited at that time, and the best beneficiaries were the leaders of this country and the elected members of parliament and the Senate, why should we then be selfish when it comes to responding to the problems in Haiti? Finally, Mr. Speaker, it is because of the absence of humanity that the world is watching as Israel and Palestine hammer each other. But humanity, if it steps in, we will tell either side, we will tell both sides that we stand to benefit more if there is no Palestinian child crying, if there is no Israeli child crying. That is the route we should go. I therefore support the motion that this
Senator Methu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I also rise to support this particular motion. And Honorable Speaker, by this House passing this particular motion, it will become an endorsement to the vote of confidence that has been voted on our forces by one of the highest security organs in the world, the United Nations Security Council, that said that for Haiti to gain stability, the forces of the Kenya Police Service must be involved. Honorable Speaker, as my colleagues have mentioned, it's not the first time that the Kenyan force is being called to go and restore peace and order. Since 1989, our police service has been involved in very many peacemaking missions. Our police have been in Darfur, our police have been in Sierra Leone, our police have been in Namibia, many missions, I think 10. This shall become the 11th, Honorable Speaker, that our Kenyan police will be dealing with. Honorable Speaker, an injustice to a black person is an injustice to every black person everywhere, be it in Haiti, be it in Kenya. And being called to lead, Honorable Speaker, as a country that shall become the lead in this particular mission of ensuring that an aggression against black people is a thing of the past, Honorable Speaker, is something that we must take as a country in pride, and we are very honored, Honorable Speaker, that it shall become Kenya in the leading. It shall be added into the list of the missions that have been successful, Honorable Speaker. Finally, Honorable Speaker, in one of the things that has been brought by the Senator Cheptumo Committee is that one of the last things that is happening beyond the approval by the United Nations Security Council is the second condition that we give as a country is negotiation on the welfare of the troops, Honorable Speaker. I think, Honorable Speaker, this is very, very important that we take care of the welfare of the 1,000 policemen that will go to Haiti, Honorable Speaker, that we shall be able to take care of their medical expenses, Honorable Speaker. In the unfortunate event any of them gets injured or even there's loss of life, Honorable Speaker, the government or the United Nations should be able to take care of these particular soldiers, their families, and their dependents, Honorable Speaker, so that it shall not become a curse that we send people, 1,000 of us, to go and bring peace elsewhere, Honorable Speaker, that after it, Honorable Speaker, their families will have the comfort and they will feel proud that...
Your time is up, Senator. Senator Mofaya.
I stand to support the motion. Honorable Speaker, it's important for this Honorable House to realize that Kenya, as a country, has the best reputation in the world for peacekeeping forces. Honorable Speaker, this is not the first time that this country has been able to send forces across the world for peacekeeping missions, bearing in mind that in this country we have the best trained officers across the board. And it is their time, Honorable Speaker, that we have to cry with our brothers in Haiti, because as Honorable Medwa just said, a pain inflicted to any black person is just a reflection of what is happening in here today. So, Honorable Speaker, it is my humble submission that I should support this motion that we are supposed to send troops to Haiti to keep peace, because this is administration before, and it's something that Kenya has been doing for the last like 20 years or so. I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Chute Mohammed Said.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Kenya Police Service is a national body which is in charge of law enforcement in Kenya, not in Haiti. So, Speaker, the Kenya Police Service was formed in 1906. And later on, we had National Police Service, which was established in 2011 under Article 243. Mr. Speaker, in a normal circumstances, you can give to people, anybody, that things you have. If you have something, you can give someone. If you don't have anything, what are you going to give anyone? Why am I saying this? Mr. Speaker, Kenya, okay, let me talk about United Nations recommended ratio of 1 police officer to a population of Kenyans. The ratio is 1 police officer to 450 persons in Kenya. But in our situation now, we have 1 police officer, 1,150 persons. That means the police officers we have today in Kenya is 101. And we need 250 police officers to even manage the people we have in Kenya. We have issues in Baragoi. We have issues in Marsabit. We have issues in Pokot. We have issues in Turkana, Samburu, Lamu, Mandera. We cannot manage. Why are we sending our officers to Haiti? I honestly don't know. And if I am asked today, police officers in Baragoi, police officers were killed, 40 police officers, in a period of about 1 hour. That means we have a problem. How can we safeguard the security and safety of our people in Haiti? I beg to say, when my friend Senator Kalwal is talking about humanity in Haiti, how about humanity in Baragoi, in Marsabit, in Samburu, in Mandera, in Wajir? I beg to oppose Kabisa. It is wrong to send our children there, and I don't like this idea. It is not good. We don't have enough officers. Why do we send our young boys and girls, okay, boys and girls to Haiti while we cannot even, don't have enough officers? Usikate, wachana mambo yake. We don't have enough officers to take care of our issues in Kenya. So I will say, I honestly would like our officers to remain in Kenya.
Senator Tute, I've listened to your contributions, and you've been in this house for a while now. Standing Order 92 requires you to proceed in one particular language, either Kiswahili or English, or Kenya Sign Language. When you start with one, you conclude with that particular speech. That was a reminder to you so that you are there in your future contributions in the House. Senator Mungatana Buya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to say a few words on this matter. Mr. Speaker, in Tana River, there is a very energetic team in football that we celebrate called Sango Sportif. And this is the only team that is in League Division 2 from our county. Mr. Speaker, every time they keep requesting for support to go and have experience outside the county, to play with other people who are in another level, so that they gather the experience and become better. Mr. Speaker, I am also chairing the Bunge Sports Committee with the Honorable Kawaya. And every time we get requests from several teams in Parliament that they want to go and train or engage with other international people or teams so that they can make their game better. Mr. Speaker, why should we make it difficult or oppose the idea that our children, our police officers want to go and get experience outside? Mr. Speaker, this will make them better, not the worse. Number two, Mr. Speaker, the Bosnia-Herzegovina mission that happened in a few years ago, in '96, Mr. Speaker, some of the soldiers who came back, Mr. Speaker, I remember receiving one in my office, and he told me, I have come back with a lot of money, I want to purchase a house, and I want to make sure that this money I'm using will also be enough to purchase a property. Mr. Speaker, that soldier was coming from a mission that made his life change completely. And to date, Mr. Speaker, that soldier is doing very well. How did he gain his foundation in economic prosperity? It's because, Mr. Speaker, he went outside, He came back with good money and he was able to invest, and to date, Mr. Speaker, he is doing very well. It is wrong, Mr. Speaker, to politicize this. Allow people their opportunity and chance to develop themselves economically. And Mr. Speaker, I want to finish by saying, those people who are saying Constitution is against this move, I want to remind them that this story of them throwing the Constitution in our face is not the first time. Just yesterday, the day before yesterday, Mr. Speaker, they have been singing here, the opposition saying the Constitution is against the sitting of cabinet secretaries here. They sang, they talked in videos.
Your time is up. Your time is up, Senator Mungatana. Thank you. Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to be quick on this matter. I rise to support this motion. This is a very important exercise that Kenya has signed up for. Article 2 of the Constitution of Kenya, and I wish while I say this, our colleague senators from the minority side were in the House, those that are saying this move is not constitutional. I wish to point them to the provisions of Article 2 of our Constitution, which speaks to the general rules of international laws being part and parcel of the laws of this country. Kenya is a signed-up member of the UN. We have ratified many other international laws and domesticated them into our country, Mr. Speaker. It is on that basis that we have taken up this position of honor and respect and responsibility, Mr. Speaker, to save our African brothers in Haiti who are going through this rough patch. And I wish to remind our colleagues from the minority side who are opposing this move to know that Kenya, while Kenya may be prosperous and peaceful today, we'll never know about the future. There might be a time that we may also call upon other countries to come and rescue us where we'll be in moments of trouble. This is what you do. This is African culture. When your neighbor's house is on fire, Mr. Speaker, you don't look around and say, oh, because I had a quarrel with my wife, because I've not finished digging up my land. That's not the African cultural ethic, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I support this move that the government has taking up this responsibility. Kenya is a very respected member of the international community, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we have lived up to this call, and I believe that it is the right direction. Mr. Speaker, like Senator Mungatana has just pointed out, there are many Kenyans who owe their path to prosperity, especially those in the armed forces, to an opportunity such as this where they had an opportunity to go and serve in the international arena. If you go to Nakuru County, for example, there is an entire village known as Sierra Leone, made up of military men who went to serve on peacekeeping mission. Many of them are thriving, they have good lands, their kids have gone to school because of such opportunities. This is what we are talking about when we talk about providing opportunities even for our men and women in uniform. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I like the submission that has been made by the Mau Mau veterans, Mr. Speaker. Before that, of course, you have seen that there is a whole list of the many times that Kenya has participated in peacekeeping missions, even by use of the police, from 1989, ANTAG in Namibia, Yugoslavia, East Timor, Croatia. Kenya has participated. But I like what the Mau Mau veterans have told this committee, Mr. Speaker, that they just ensure that these people are properly compensated. They cite the 1913 and 1914 peacekeeping mission that Kenya participated in, and how that provided an opportunity for them to live on a path of prosperity. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the motion. I think this is not the first time Kenya has sent in police officers for humanitarian issues and security issues in the world, other part of the world. This is a very respected country. This country is actually a well-known country all over the world as a result of, our champions. These are people who fly our flags in all the cities in this world. And therefore, this country is regarded very highly. And giving humanitarian support and security to other affected brothers in the world is actually not, costing any, affecting the lives of the police officers. Police officers actually have been trained, and they have taken all that they will support, and at least go into everywhere, wherever they think they can be able to help and maybe give security. And as a result, if anybody fears that somebody is going to die, even if they're in Kenya, they die. So somebody was saying 40 police officers lost their life in Samburu. So it's the same thing. I mean, it's not a big deal. The Kenya police were in Sierra Leone, they were there in Namibia, they were there in Somalia, they're actually all over, wherever they are. Even now, they were there also in South Sudan. So it's not the first time that we're sending police officers there. However, one thing I want to add is that I know one guy who comes from Wajir County. He was a police inspector, and he went to Sierra Leone. And that guy lost. We don't know whether he died, whether he's been killed, or he's still alive. But up to today, nobody could have confirmed where Aden Hussein went to. He was an inspector, a chief inspector, I think. He was also a DCIO. And up to now, he has not been found. And most of, the widow and the children he left behind were not taken care of. I think this is actually one thing is we need to have a proper, the facilities in case of any death or any losses. Then I think the children and the family should not be left without any support. I know these people have been paid, the government is being paid by the UN, and therefore a lot of money is paid. And therefore, in case of anything, and eventuality, God forbid, we need at least people to be given good services and good, care for their young ones they leave behind and their families. One other thing is actually, I know, all of us here, we know that we're leaders. And whenever there's a mission outside, like the military and the police, they come, most of us come to you and tell you, oh, I want this, but I mean.
Lastly, Senator Okoiti Omtata.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the brief opportunity. I stand to oppose the motion. First and foremost, this House is not a rubber stamp. This motion should have come before His Excellency made commitments to the international community that he was going to send troops out. It should have come, and then once the consensus is built, then His Excellency could communicate that the people of Kenya have agreed to send troops to the police to Haiti. Number two, our police don't speak French. Haiti is a French-speaking country. I don't know how they are going to operate. Number three, the history of gangs in Haiti is well known. It begins with the interference of the USA in the free expression of the will of the people of Haiti. You have the Duvalier disasters, where we had the Tonton Macoutes. Those are the things that have morphed into all these various gangs. I don't see this effort succeeding in the absence of a political solution. And that political solution is to return Father Aristide back to Haiti from exile in South Africa and let the people of Haiti choose their own leaders. There will be no need for all these rancors. But to go about this exercise of saying that Kenyans are going to restore peace in the absence of a political solution is a wet dream that's going to bear nothing. So we must also remember that all the time Kenya has gone out to keep peace, be it in Bosnia, be it in Sudan, be it wherever, it was as part of a political solution. There was already a political agenda on the ground. But in Haiti, there's no political proposal on the ground. So what we are going to do is we are throwing these young men just to cover up the nakedness of America in Haiti. America exposed itself badly in Haiti, and it needs to allow the people of Haiti to have their own, to determine their future by removing the kind of support they are giving to these gangs. The main source of gangs in Haiti is Florida. So the American government should allow Father Aristide back from South Africa, and there will be no need for policemen being sent to Haiti. Policemen being sent to Haiti is to suppress the people of Haiti and deny them the right to free expression. I stand to oppose this motion.
What's your point of order, Senator Boni? Although Senator Okoiti is done, it's of no use then to raise your point of order. I would like to call the mover to respond, there being no other member to contribute to this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have keenly listened to my colleagues during the debate. Mr. Speaker, there are those who opposed and there are those who supported. That is the essence of this House, to debate and give reasons why you are supporting and not supporting. But ultimately, Mr. Speaker, the decision will be for the House to decide which way for this motion. Mr. Speaker, allow me just to briefly clarify certain issues which came out during the debate. There is the issue whether it is this country, whether the President of the Republic of Kenya who requested that Kenya leads this mission, Mr. Speaker. I want to be very clear to this House, Mr. Speaker, and the country, that the official position, Mr. Speaker, is that it is the United Nations Security Council, Mr. Speaker, which requested Kenya to lead the mission to Haiti. It will therefore, Mr. Speaker, be misleading to the public and to all Kenyans for anybody in this House, Mr. Speaker, to allege and give the impression, the false impression, Mr. Speaker, that it is actually the President who requested Kenya to lead this mission. Mr. Speaker, the other issue which I wanted just to clarify is the concern of members about the security and the well-being of our forces when they are in Haiti. Concerns, Mr. Speaker, has been raised about their medical expenses, what happens in case they are killed, what happens to their families, and so on. Mr. Speaker, when the CS Interior appeared before the committee, these are the issues, Mr. Speaker, that members raised, and the minister was able to ably explain to the committee, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the standard of care of our forces when they will be in Haiti, Mr. Speaker, is at the standards of the United Nations, Mr. Speaker, in terms of their welfare. Mr. Speaker, the medical cover, the insurance cover, their dependents, their families, Mr. Speaker, in case of any situation arising. I want to assure the country, I want to assure this House, Mr. Speaker, that after listening to the CS, I have no doubt in my mind, Mr. Speaker, that our forces will receive the highest standard of care in terms of medical and other conditions, Mr. Speaker. So no Kenyan, Mr. Speaker, will be exposed to a situation that is going to leave his or her family exposed. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the recruitment of this staff, I mean the police going to Haiti, Mr. Speaker, I had some members, Mr. Speaker, raising concern that perhaps how did we decide which officers were to be deployed? Mr. Speaker, let me confirm to the House that the same issue again arose when we had the debate, when we had the meeting with the CS. Mr. Speaker, if you look at paragraph 15 and paragraph 16 of the report, Mr. Speaker, it tells you very clearly the category of the forces. There is the command at the headquarters, and you can see the various categories of police officers in terms of rank. And when you go to page 16, Mr. Speaker, it will tell you the various formations of the members who are going to. So it is clear they are not just moving to Haiti, Mr. Speaker, generally. There's a clear framework in terms of how they should be deployed. And Mr. Speaker, the IG, the Inspector General, again, was present also in that particular session with the committee, Mr. Speaker, and he was able to clearly explain to the committee, Mr. Speaker, of the formation. And Mr. Speaker, these are not, and we are talking about 1,000 police officers being deployed to Haiti. Mr. Speaker, and they are not going at a go. We are told, Mr. Speaker, they will be going in shifts. and Mr. Speaker, as they continue to train, maybe something, Mr. Speaker, I needed to clarify to the country, is that as we speak today, the training of these officers is ongoing on various issues. The issue of the language. You know, Haiti is a French-speaking country. We are an English-speaking country, Mr. Speaker. But again, the other countries, Mr. Speaker, who are going to give support together with Kenya are also French-speaking countries. So that concern, Mr. Speaker, has already been dealt with, because as much as Kenya is an English-speaking country, the other countries, Mr. Speaker, who are joining in this mission are French-speaking countries. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, they will supplement in terms of operations and so on when it comes to issues of communication. Mr. Speaker, the other issue I wanted just to raise as I conclude is that Kenya is a country, Mr. Speaker, as heavily said by colleagues here, that has been called upon to participate in very many peace missions, not only in Africa, but even in the rest parts of the world. Mr. Speaker, God has been gracious to us as a nation. That, Mr. Speaker, since independence, now we are 60 years in our independence. God has been gracious, Mr. Speaker, to give us a peaceful nation. A nation that is ruled by the rule of law, guided by the rule of law. And Mr. Speaker, even when we have had our own internal issues, we have been able to resolve with the support of other, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is true that some parts of our country today, no drift, Mr. Speaker, in Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, in Turkana, Isiolo, Marsabit, there are issues of insecurity. And Mr. Speaker, the minister was able to assure us, Mr. Speaker, this is very important, because I want to inform the country that we were equally concerned during the meeting with the CS and the IG, that how do we deploy forces to Haiti when we have issues in our country? And they were able to confirm to the committee, Mr. Speaker, and we are satisfied that this will not in any way undermine, prejudice the security of our nation internally. And the minister and the IG were able to assure us that they will ensure that there is peace in every part of our country. And Mr. Speaker, this is very important, because even as a House, and me as the chair of security, it is important that as we deploy, emphasis is given to secure our land, secure every county, every constituency. And so, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Honorable Senators, I make a determination pursuant to Standing Order 84-1 that this matter does not affect counties. And I therefore put the question that, taking into consideration the recommendations of the joint report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security of the National Assembly and the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations of the Senate regarding the proposed deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the Multinational Security Support MSS mission for Haiti, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 15th November 2023, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 240, Sub-Article 8A of the Constitution, the Senate approves the deployment of officers of the National Police Service to the Multinational Security Support MSS mission for Haiti. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order, clerk. Honorable members, we will defer order number 9 to number 16 for want of numbers to our next sitting because all are going for division. So clerk, call order number 17.
Order number 17, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bills number 29 of 2023, second reading, reply by the mover.
Senator Miraj.
Miraj, reply.
Asante Bwana Spika. Nimesimama kuwashukuru na kuwapongeza waheshimiwa wenzangu wote ambao waliweza kupata fursa na wakachangia katika bili yangu ya Care and Protection of Child Parents ya mwaka wa 2023. Na ningependa kuwajulisha ya kwamba nilikuwa hapa nikisikiza na nimenukuu yale ambayo walipendekeza niweze kuyarekebisha katika mswada wangu, na nawahakikishia hapa ya kwamba kama sponsor wa hiyo bill nitarudi katika meza ya mviringo na wale ambao walinisaidia ili tuweze kuiboresha na iweze kusaidia wale watoto ambao wako na watoto waweze kurudi shule, wapate haki yao ya kikatiba ya elimu, pamoja na wale watoto ambao watawazaa waweze kuangaliwa na kupata ile care ambayo inahitajika. Kwa hivyo basi, Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order 66.3, I request that you defer the putting of the question to a later date. Thank you.
Clerk, call the next order. Senator Miraj, while you are replying, I was hoping that you would comply with the provisions of 92. You began in Swahili, you closed in English. Next time, ensure that you do comply with that particular standing order. As per your request under the Standing Order 66.3, this is deferred to the next session for purposes of progress of your bill. Clerk, move the next order.
Order number 18, the Prevention of Livestock and Produce Theft Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate interrupted on Thursday, 2nd November 2023.
Honorable members, this one is also deferred to the next sitting. Call the next order.
Order number 19, the Coffee Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2023, second reading.
Chairperson, Agriculture Committee, proceed.
Asante, Mstahiki Spika, niko hapa kuashirisha mswada wa kahawa wa mwaka 2023 ambao nimeudhamini kwa ajili ya wakulima wote wa kahawa nchini. Mstahiki Spika, kahawa ndio bidhaa ya pili kuuzwa duniani, kushindwa mafuta ndio ya kwanza, kahawa ndio ya pili. Lakini Mstahiki Spika, kwa muda mrefu sana wakulima wa kahawa wamekuwa na shinda mingi kwa sababu ya wakiritimba ambao wameweza kuwa nafaidika kutoka na zao la kahawa. Bali imefika kwamba mkulima anapopeleka kahawa katika kiwanda cha kusagia kahawa, mwisho wake unafika hapo. Inapelekwa kwa wale wanajiita millers, kutoka hapo kuna wale wanajiita agents, marketers, brokers. Alafu kabla haijafika katika soko kuu ya kahawa, NC, Nairobi Coffee Exchange, Mstahiki Speaker, mkulima hawezi kujua bei yake ya kahawa ambayo anafaa kununuliwa kahawa. Mstahiki Speaker, kahawa, majani chai na bidhaa zinginezo Kenya ndizo tu baadhi ya mazao ambayo hata inapelekangwa sokoni na mkulima bila kujua bei yake ni pesa ngapi. Bei ya kahawa kwa muda mrefu imekuwa ikitolewa na wanunuzi. Hiyo ni kusema ya kwamba wakulima hawajaweza kupata bei nzuri ambayo ingesimamia ukuzaji wa kahawa na kuweza kugharamia pembejeo na vitu zinginezo ambazo zinatumika kwa kahawa. Mstahiki Spika, kabla sinja kuja kudhamini mswada wa kahawa, nilikuwa nimetembea katika nchi Amerika na nikakutana na kahawa ambayo ilikuwa inauzwa ya kiwanda moja kutoka kule Kirinyaga inaitwa Rungeto. Mstahiki Spika, bei ya kahawa hiyo ilikuwa rombo ilikuwa ni takriban $8. Kwa hesabu na takwimu ambayo nilifanya wakati huo, nikisema ukweli ni kwamba ile kahawa kilo moja ilikuwa inanunuliwa zaidi ya shilingi 9,800. Mstahiki Spika, wakulima Rungeto mwaka huo walilipwa kwa kilo moja shilingi 100. Ukiangalia ile bei mkulima alilipwa pesa na ile pesa ambayo ile kahawa ilinunuliwa, unaona ya kwamba wakulima wa Kenya wamekuwa wakinyanyaswa sana na wanafanya kazi ngumu ambayo inaitwa na Waswahili kazi ya msaragambo. Na baada ya kufanya hiyo kazi yote, wale wakulima wafaidiki. Mstahiki Spika, kahawa ni moja wapo bidhaa ambayo inauzwa kupitia vyama vya ushirika, na hivyo ni kusema ya kwamba kuna mpangilio maalum ambao unatumika katika ukuzi na uzaji wa kahawa. Lakini tuligundua ya kwamba wale ambao wanajiita millers wenye wanasaka kahawa bado ndo wanabadilisha koti, wanajiita agents wenye watasimamia mambo ya kuuza kahawa. Wale ndo wanakuwa kama broker wa kahawa, na katika hiyo kisungumkuti mkulima anapoteza pesa zake. Kwa hivyo Mstahiki Spika, katika huu mswada ambao tumewasilisha katika hii bunge la Seneti, kuna mambo ambayo tunaleta. Moja inaitwa DSS, ambayo kwa kimombo anaita Direct Settlement System, ambayo pesa ambayo itakuwa inakusanywa, inapokelewa kutoka uuzaji wa kahawa, itakuwa inaenda moja kwa moja kwa mkulima, ili kuondoa wale wakiritimba, watu wengi wako hapo katikati ambao wanapangia pesa ya mkulima pasipo kumhusisha mkulima. Jambo la pili ambao kuna warehouse receipt system, usimamizi wa kahawa katika maghala inapochunwa na kupelekwa, ili kuhakikisha kwamba unapopata mnunuzi wa kahawa hata kama ametoka nje, lazima kutakuwa na idhini na makaratasi ambayo itakayosainiwa na mkulima kuhakikisha kwamba amekubaliana na bei ya kahawa na vile vile amekubali kwamba kahawa yake iuzwe. Katika mswada tumepeana njia 2 za kuuza kahawa. Unaweza washirisha kahawa yako katika soko la kahawa la Nairobi Coffee Exchange, na vile vile unaweza uza kahawa yako moja kwa moja katika nchi za ng'ambo. Mstahiki Spika, katika uuzaji wa kahawa katika njia zote 2, pesa itambidi ipitie mtambo wa moja kwa moja ambao unaitwa Direct Settlement System. Mstahiki Spika, nilikuwa na bahati ya kutembelea nchi ya Colombia wakati nilikuwa tunafanya huu mswada, na tukaona venye mafanikio yaliyoko katika nchi ile, ikiwa mambo ya uzanji, usalishaji wa kahawa utazingatiwa. Mstahiki Spika, pale Colombia tulipata ya kwamba katika wale maofisa ambao wanaangalia ukulima bora, extension officers, Colombia eneo la Pereira peke yake wako na wale researcher pia, kwa sababu katika ile mswada kuna CRI, Coffee Research Institute, yao iko na watu ambao wako na PhD, watu zaidi ya 100, wako na zaidi ya aina 400 ya kahawa. Hapa Kenya tunafikisha 10. Wameendelea kiasi ya kwamba wanaweza kukuzalishia kahawa, miche ya kahawa ambayo inalingana na urefu wako, ili usiwe na shida wakati unaenda kuchuna ile kahawa. Na sisi ndio tufike pale, ndio maana tukaleta pia tuwe na CRI na kuondoa kahawa chini ya afa, kwa sababu wakati kahawa, majani chai na mazao mengine yaliwekwa chini ya afa, hapo ndipo tulifanya makosa kubwa na mazao mengi na mimea mingi ikaanza kudidimia. Kwa kuiondoa katika kuwa chini ya AFA, Mr. Speaker, tumeiweka chini ya Coffee Board of Kenya, mahali ilikuwa zamani CBK, ili kahawa iweze kupewa, iweze kuangaliwa vizuri venye inastahika, kwa sababu kwa sasa imewekwa katika kikundi moja na ndania, kalela, mchicha na vitu kama hizo, na hiyo ni kusema kwamba chini ya AFA hawanja angalia vizuri kahawa. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, katika huo mswanda unasema kama wewe umepewa leseni, kama unasaka kahawa ya kuuza commercial millers, ufai kupewa leseni ya kuwa kama endo agent ama kuwa broker wa kahawa. Kwa sababu gani? Tulikuja tukajua ya kwamba wale watu ambao wao wakiritimba ambao cartels walikuwa wameingia katika kahawa, walikuwa wanatumia njia ya kuwa mimi ndio mnunuzi, wewe ndio Mr. Speaker. Senator wa Wajia, Senator Ambasi, unajua hajui kuongea polepole, kwa hivyo siwezi changia kama bado anaongea. Mr. Speaker, nilikuwa nasema ya kwamba tulikuja tukajua wale wakiritima bando ndo wanakuwa ndio wanasaka kahawa, bando wale ndo wanajifanya kama ndio agents, wale bando ndio walikuwa brokers, na mahali ilikuwa hata mbaya zaidi walikuwa bando wanaenda nchi za ngambo, wanasanjiri kampuni ambao wanakuja pia kama wanunuzi. Hiyo ni kusema ya kwamba kama kuna kahawa imeletwa, tuseme kama kahawa for example ni kahawa ya, kwa mfano kama ya Kibirigwi, walikuwa naweza kukaa pamoja na kusema hiyo kahawa ya Kibirigwi mimi ndo nanunua bei fulani. Hiyo ni kusema alikuwa anaweza kuja wenyewe wakajua kahawa atanunua bei gani. So inakuwa ngumu sana kwa mkulima wa kahawa kufaidika, kwa sababu wale ambao wananunua kahawa walikuwa sasa wananyanyasa wakulima. Na ndio tukaonelea kwamba ni vizuri kuwe na sheria nzuri ambayo inalinda wakulima wa kahawa, na ili waweze wakati wanakuza kahawa, wakati wanaenda wameuza kahawa, wakati wanafanya hiyo kazi ngumu, waweze pia kupata faida. Mr. Speaker, nadhani sisi wengi wetu hapa tunakunywa kahawa. Na jambo la kushangaza ni kwamba kama unakunywa kahawa yoyote ambayo unaweka kwa kikombe unakoroga inaisha katika hizi, kwa kimombo inaitwa instant coffee, hiyo si kahawa ya Kenya, hiyo ni robusta coffee ambayo inatoka kwa majirani. Na hiyo ni kusema ya kwamba sisi wa Kenya wenyewe hata kahawa yetu hatutumii. Na kwa hivyo katika mswanda pia tumesema kwamba kuwe na kondi ya 2% ambayo itakuwa inakatwa kwa kahawa yote ambayo inatoka nje kuja kutumika hapa nchini. Ili katika ile 2%, 1% tutaipeleka kwa Coffee Research Institute ili iweze kuboresha mambo ya kiutafiti kuhusu kahawa. 0.5 itaenda kwa county government ambazo zinalima kahawa kwa sababu ya miundo msingi ya zile barabara zinatumika pale, na pia 0.5 pia itaenda kwa Coffee Board of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, ule mswanda uko na mambo mengi sana mazuri, na nadhani maseneta wakati ripoti itakuwa hapa ataweza kuiangalia. Kwa hivyo mimi ningeomba kwamba maseneta wasome ile ripoti kuhusu kahawa, alafu tuweze kuunga mkono ule mswanda ili kuhakikisha kwamba wakulima wa kahawa wanasaidika katika kaunti zote zile ambazo zinakuza kahawa, na ni nyingi katika Kenya hii. Mr. Speaker, pia katika kamati yetu ya ukulima, ufugaji na uchumi samawati tumefanya miswanda kadhaa ambayo inahusisha kila kaunti katika nchi hii, ikiwepo pia marekebisho ya ile sheria ya AFA 53 ya mwaka wa 2013 ambayo ilikuja kusema ya kwamba makandamia, mbiksa na korosho pia zinafaa kuwa zinauzwa zikiwa zimetolewa maganda ambayo imekandamisha wakulima sana. Kwa hivyo ningeomba maseneta wote ya kwamba kila eneo tumechunga na tuko na sheria ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba kuna zao ambao linapatia wakulima pesa katika eneo lile. Tuko na mswanda wa pamba ambao uliletwa na mwanakamati wangu Beth Siengo, niko na mswanda wa mchele Rice Bill 2023 ambao nimeleta mimi, tuko na kahawa, tuko na hiyo nimesema hapa ya korosho, tuko na hii ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba ufugaji pia umeangaliwa, na kwa hivyo ningeomba maseneta wote kuunga mkono mswada huu ili tushirikiane katika kuokoa wakulima Kenya hii. Na ningeomba Senator wa Kiambu Karungu Wathang'wa kuunga mkono mswada huu. Asante Mr. Speaker.
Senator Karungu Wathang'wa. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I rise to second the coffee bill. Mr. Speaker, it's a high time that we save the coffee growers or the coffee farmers of this nation. Mr. Speaker, they have cried to the nation, to themselves, and even to the president. And that's why we as the Senate, we are coming up with this bill, because it's a high time we returned coffee to where it was in the 1970s. And this is the gold that is found in Mount Kenya, in Rift Valley, and different parts of this country, Mr. Speaker. This bill is bringing what coffee farmers have always asked for. That is the Coffee Board of Kenya. This board, which is mandated to regulate and promote development of the coffee industry, Mr. Speaker, will be the board that will see to it that the Kenya coffee farmers will benefit from their produce. Mr. Speaker, the same bill has given the county governments enough powers to exercise their mandate. That is the licensing of the coffee mills, pulping station, coffee roasters, and by so doing, we are getting the farmers will be registered for us to know how many farmers we have. So that when we are giving out subsidized fertilizer, we'll be able to know who are these farmers, what kind of coffee do they produce, how much do they produce, where do they take that coffee, Mr. Speaker. Because the coffee farmer or the farmers, Mr. Speaker, they have lost their coffee from their cooperatives or from their factories. Their coffee has always been stolen. This bill has looked into that matter by saying that anybody who is transporting coffee must register and get a license from the county government from which or from where they are transporting the coffee from. This way, Mr. Speaker, is going to deter people from stealing coffee. Because if we find you or you are found by the authority to have transported coffee without the licenses, of course, it will be said you are one of those who are stealing coffee. Mr. Speaker, coffee farmers need to be paid on time. Coffee farmers need to benefit from the produce. Coffee farmers need to enjoy or must enjoy their sweat, Mr. Speaker, because this coffee has market internationally. Countries all over the world buy coffee from Kenya. But before this coffee goes to those countries, it must pass through some certain brokers or what people call cartels, Mr. Speaker. But by passing this bill and having the regulation put in place, we are going to deal with those cartels. And I'm telling the coffee farmer today that this Senate is the one that has originated with this bill. And of course, we have listened to each and every person. The coffee farmers, we have gone to Kericho, we have gone to Meru, the committee that is mandated to see to it that these bills go through, has gone to so many counties to listen to coffee farmers. And we have input from all the farmers or coffee farmers, and we have considered all their grievances, all their input. We have consulted everybody, Mr. Speaker. And I can tell you, when this bill is passed by the Senate, the coffee farmer will start enjoying their produce. So, Mr. Speaker, without further ado, I second the bill. Thank you.
Honorable Senators,
I now propose the question that the Senate, the coffee bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2023 be now read a second time. Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to join my colleagues, Senator Karungo Dhangwa of Kirinyaga, and Senator of Kiambu, and Senator Murango of Kirinyaga, who have proposed and seconded this very important bill. I spoke earlier in this House, Mr. Speaker, when I was giving majority leader's statement for the week, and I said it will be a great travesty of justice if, as a House, we proceed on recess without concluding on the T-bill sponsored by yours truly, Mr. Speaker. This coffee bill that has been brought by the Agriculture Committee. There's a sugar bill, I think, sponsored by the Senator for Bungoma, and equalization fund bill, about 6 or 7 bills that have got the chance, Mr. Speaker, to provide great resources to the people of Kenya. Yet, on many afternoons, Mr. Speaker, there are many other matters that we consider, but in my humble opinion and submission, Mr. Speaker, these matters ought to be at the very top of it. I say this, Mr. Speaker, because I know what coffee farming can do. I represent coffee farmers in this House. Mr. Speaker, on many occasions, I know that have been quite vocal, and in fact, on many times, part of the criticism that I suffer in my county is when I visit the coffee and the sugar growing areas, because the people that I represent in this House are farmers, Mr. Speaker, of largely tea, but also to a greater extent sugarcane and coffee. And on many times, Mr. Speaker, when I visit those regions, I find them ready to take on me and say, Mr. Senator, we don't hear you as vocal on coffee. We don't hear you as vocal on sugar as you are on tea. And therefore, this grants me at least the perfect excuse and opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to look at them and, of course, piggyback on the very good work that has been done by the Agriculture Committee, Mr. Speaker, of providing a route through which our coffee farmers, Mr. Speaker, can begin to enjoy the sweat of their brow and get better earnings. Mr. Speaker, you know for a fact that it has been argued, and I agree with economists who have said that so long as Africa continues to try to bypass the agrarian revolution period, we shall never attain meaningful development, Mr. Speaker. That this is a stage which, while the rest of the world, Europe and the Americas, cross this particular stage, where you organize agriculture in such a way that it has meaning, that it can provide proper employment, Mr. Speaker, that it gets to a point where those that draw their livelihood from farming practices, Mr. Speaker, can comfortably predict and plan their life, because you have set up systems, you have put in place cooperatives, you have put in place milling plants, Mr. Speaker, and you have put in place mechanisms as an administration and even as a country, Mr. Speaker, to be able to produce, Mr. Speaker, at a good price, and eventually even, Mr. Speaker, sell it and market at a good price eventually, Mr. Speaker. I am proud of this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, particularly on the element of marketing. Because, Mr. Speaker, I can even use the example of tea and sugarcane and so many other crops, Mr. Speaker, that the eventual price, I have never understood, Mr. Speaker, why is it the case that in almost all the crops and almost all agricultural practices, Mr. Speaker, in this country as well as in sub-Saharan Africa, it is so difficult to have the farmer get more than 50% of the earnings of the eventual cost of that particular product at the final retail price, Mr. Speaker. Yet, the farmer does the most difficult job, ensuring that they tend to the crop, they put manure, they prune, they maintain it, they eventually deliver it to the milling site, Mr. Speaker, be it sugarcane, be it coffee, be it tea, but the eventual price, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, of what our farmers earn. At best, even for a crop that is supposedly does well like tea. I don't know, Senator Mungatana, if you know, that the best any farmer can earn is a maximum of 50%. The eventual price of what that particular product cost, be it in a supermarket here in Kenya or even in overseas, Mr. Speaker, is double what ends up in the pocket of our farmers. This, of course, Mr. Speaker, we've been told is because of a concept called value addition. Yet we know for a fact that there is no science. In many of these crops and products, Mr. Speaker, what they are calling value addition, sometimes, if it is avocados, it is just polishing and ensuring that it has a fine shine, because there's nothing that you add. If it is coffee, if it is tea, it's just to ensure that it is packaged properly, Mr. Speaker, and you...
Majority Leader, when the House resumes, you will have a balance of 54 minutes to contribute to this particular bill. And therefore, Honorable Senators, it's now 6:30 p.m. time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until Tuesday, 21st November 2023 at 2:30 p.m.
Thank you.